Hey, it's Guy here from Off My Bridge. And today we are reviewing, second review in as many weeks, we are reviewing the new Species Handbook from Modiphius. I will say this now, it's one of the books that you have to purchase. This is book number 2 in your collection. Core rulebook, Species Handbook. That's what you need as critical stuff. But why? From a Species Handbook, we expect to get new playable species. We expect to get values, traits, attributes, cool stuff around the species. And we expect to get a lot of species. Do we get that in this book? Oh, absolutely. We get dozens of species. Androids, holograms, different types of rocks that you can be if you really want to be. Incorporeal beings. There is so much in this that there are some species that I looked at and I went, oh, I remember that species from that one episode of Enterprise. Wow. Okay, cool. They're in here. Excellent. That's great. Okay. Nice. Right. It's a really comprehensive book. But what I like about it is, aside from it giving us what we expect, it gives us more. And so when you look at some of the species that have to have oxygen or face masks in order to operate, like the Barzan, there's a whole random roll table on what happens if that equipment malfunctions and what it means to the character. I like that. I appreciate that. That is the designers going, you know what, we've had some thoughts. There are some species that have been excluded, and I spoke to the head of Star Trek, Jim Johnson, about that, and he gave me an answer. I'll talk about that in a little bit. They've even included species that you go, how would you play this? The Breen, Jem'Hadar, Vorta, Changelings. Those are interesting. How are they going to get involved in Starfleet? How are they going to get involved in the ship? What's going on here? Well, what if your ship is just a ragtag bunch of mercenaries and it has nothing to do with Starfleet? Oh, well, now you can have this really diverse crew. So I really appreciate that they have dived headlong into that approach of, hey, we're going to include all sorts of cool, weird, and wonderful things. What was left out? Well, before we get there, something else that was included, because I think this was a really good call on their behalf, was how to make your own species. Our whole chapter is dedicated to how do you make your own species? What should you go for? What should you consider? How do you balance this whole thing? And I really appreciate that, because then you can go, you know what? That's perfect, because I really want to be a this, or I really want to try and create a that, or I want to create my own species altogether. So what did Jim have to say about the species that are missing? The one enemy species that has not been included is the Gorn. And I spoke to Jim about this and I said, why aren't the Gorn there? And he said, well, the Gorn went into hibernation, and they are on these weird cycles of hibernation, which has now been said as canon in Strange New Worlds. And so it becomes problematic to include a species that has this fixed cycle. Now, the Vulcans have got Pon farr every 7 years, and it only lasts for a couple of days. They included Talaxians and Acombans, Delta Quadrant species, and you go, well, is that such a bad thing? No, not really, but they didn't include any other Delta Quadrant inhabitants in terms of Kazon, Hirogen, the Trabe, Melkorians. Those are not there. So there's a hint at Delta Quadrant, but there's not really enough there. So you kind of go, well, swap those two out and put in more Alpha Beta Quadrant, which is where most of us would be playing. Or what about including the Karma from the Gamma Quadrant? Because we've got Changelings and Jem'Hadar and Vorta. Maybe we should explore some of the non-militant sort of species. I believe that this book is a fantastic book to have. It is the second book that you must own if you are going to be playing Star Trek Adventures 2 with any kind of serious intent. You don't, of course, have to have the book. So if you can't afford it, don't buy it. But if you can only afford one, this is the one to get. So what can we expect in the future? Well, I would love to see your thoughts on what you think should be the next Star Trek Modiphius book. Until next week, when we are looking at mass fleet battles, I have written some custom rules, which all of my Patreons will get as a supplement to January. mass fleet battles? Ever wanted to pitch 150 Federation starships against 300 Dominion warships? Well, with my rules, you can, and it won't take you 3 months of role-playing to work through the orders of each of those ships, as well as keeping track of the shields of all of those ships. I've got a system which I believe integrates pretty well with the existing STA2 stuff, and so that's what we're going to be looking at next week. Until then, however, I wish you long life and happy gaming.